Imagine losing your partner to someone else. Now, think about that person making money by selling a story about it. Strange, right? Well, that's more or less what Netflix did with Blockbuster. How did this happen? We'll tell you all about it in today's video. We're going to look back at how great Blockbuster once was and examine how Netflix's rise contributed to its downfall to see if there is any chance for Blockbuster to come back, or if it's all over for this once loved American icon. Picture this. It's Friday night. You're walking into a Blockbuster, surrounded by walls of movies. Can you smell that popcorn they always have popping at the counter? This wasn't just a store, it was an event, a part of our weekend rituals back in the 80s and 90s. Imagine every 17 hours a new Blockbuster store was springing up somewhere as they grew to a staggering 9,000 stores worldwide. It was the golden age of video rentals, and Blockbuster was king.
Imagine the perfect video store. It would have a great selection, right? Right! Over 10,000 videos. 3 evening rentals, so no rush, no hassle. Fast checkout. 24-hour quick drop return. Open late every night. Well, the perfect video store
Welcome to Blockbuster Video.
is popping up all over the country. There's one near you.
Blockbuster Video. Wow, what a difference.
Let's go back to 1985, when Blockbuster was founded in Dallas, Texas. The idea came from David Cook, and it started as a single store that quickly changed the video rental world. Imagine walking into a store with thousands of titles instead of just a few. Blockbuster had everything from big Hollywood hits to indie gems. Local rental shops just couldn't compete. Blockbuster grew super fast. By the late 80s, they were opening a new store every day. Can you believe that? It's like mushrooms popping up after rain. This wasn't by accident. Blockbuster had a formula: clean, bright stores, a huge selection, and a family-friendly vibe. Renting videos became an experience. Families spent hours browsing the aisles, debating which movies to rent, and sometimes bumping into neighbors doing the same thing. But Blockbuster wasn't just about the movies. It was about the culture. The 80s and 90s were times when renting a video was a social activity. Remember those Friday nights when the whole family would pile into the car and head to Blockbuster? You'd spend what felt like hours wandering the aisles, picking out the perfect movie, and maybe grabbing some candy or popcorn at the checkout. It was a ritual, a shared experience that brought people together. At its peak, Blockbuster was huge. With almost 10,000 stores worldwide, it ruled the video rental market. In 1994, Blockbuster was bought by Viacom for a whopping $8.4 billion. That's big money. This showed how much of an impact Blockbuster had on the entertainment industry. They were making billions in revenue. And those late fees? They were a goldmine, even though they annoyed customers. Blockbuster's business model was simple but effective. They relied heavily on new releases to draw in customers, and boy did it work. Every Tuesday, which was new release day, you'd see a rush of people eager to get their hands on the latest movies. And if you didn't return the movie on time, well, those late fees would start to rack up. Their marketing was top-notch too. Blockbuster wasn't just a video rental store. It was an entertainment hub. They sponsored sports events, had partnerships with major movie studios, and even ventured into the world of gaming by renting out video games and consoles. They were everywhere, and for a while, it seemed like nothing could stop them. But let's switch gears for a moment. While Blockbuster was enjoying its glory days, a big change was brewing in the video rental world. In 1997, a man named Reed Hastings got hit with a $40 late fee for a movie. Annoying, right? Instead of just complaining, Hastings turned his frustration into innovation. He teamed up with Mark Randolph and together they founded Netflix. Netflix's idea was simple but revolutionary. Rent DVDs online, get them mailed to your door, and most importantly, no late fees. That's right, no more rushing to the store to avoid a penalty. Their model was subscription-based, allowing customers to keep movies as long as they wanted. This was a stark contrast to Blockbuster's late fee-driven model. You can imagine how appealing this was to consumers who were tired of those pesky fees. The early days of Netflix were tough. They started as a mail-order DVD rental service, which seems quaint now, but back then it was quite innovative. The internet was still in its infancy, and the idea of renting movies online was novel. Netflix had to convince people to trust this new way of renting movies. But they were persistent, constantly tweaking their service to better meet customer needs. As Netflix slowly gained traction, the cracks in Blockbuster's seemingly impenetrable armor started to show. The first real sign of competition came when Netflix began to grow its subscriber base with their innovative subscription model. This wasn't just about renting a movie anymore, it was about convenience and customer satisfaction. People loved the idea of having DVDs delivered straight to their mailbox, and the freedom to watch at their own pace. And here's a juicy bit of history. In the early 2000s, Netflix approached Blockbuster with a proposal to sell for $50 million. Blockbuster's executives laughed them out of the room. Who would need Netflix when you could just go to Blockbuster, right? This was a huge mistake, one that would come back to haunt them. Netflix wasn't deterred. They kept pushing forward, continually improving their service and growing their subscriber base. By the early 2000s, it was clear that Netflix was more than just a passing fad. They were gaining real momentum, and Blockbuster was starting to feel the heat. Blockbuster attempted to counter this by launching their own online rental service, Blockbuster Online, in 2004. But it was a classic case of too little, too late. The service was plagued with issues from the start, and it never quite caught on the way Netflix did. Netflix, on the other hand, was just getting started. They introduced customer-friendly features like personalized recommendations, which used user data to suggest movies. This not only made the user experience better, but also increased customer satisfaction and loyalty. Netflix's focus on data and technology was paving the way for what would become a major shift in how people watched entertainment. So, as Blockbuster continued to expand its physical presence, Netflix was laying the groundwork for a digital future. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Blockbuster, with its massive stores and reliance on late fees, versus Netflix, a lean, customer-focused company that was all about convenience and innovation. Reflecting on this period, it's clear that Blockbuster was stuck in a classic business dilemma. They were heavily invested in their existing model and infrastructure, making it hard to change direction quickly. Their success in the physical rental market became a double-edged sword, blinding them to the potential of digital innovation. Netflix, with its leaner structure and customer-first approach, was poised to capitalize on this gap. Blockbuster's complacency and Netflix's relentless innovation set the stage for a dramatic shift in the entertainment industry. The seeds of change had been planted, and the digital revolution was about to unfold. As we move into the next act, we'll see how these initial battles evolved into a full-blown fight for the future of entertainment. All right, let's dive into the next part of our story, how Blockbuster struggled to keep up with the fast-changing world of home entertainment. By the early 2000s, Netflix was already making a name for itself with its new DVD by mail service. Blockbuster, confident in their many stores, decided it was time to join the digital age. So, in 2004, they launched Blockbuster Online to compete with Netflix. Now, you might think, great move, right? Well, not exactly. Blockbuster Online had problems right from the start. It was a good idea, but it came too late and wasn't done well. The service was clunky and confusing, especially for people used to the simple in-store rentals. Blockbuster was slow to realize how important online rentals were becoming, showing just how out of touch they were with what customers wanted. Speaking of being out of touch, let's talk about those late fees. Remember them? While Netflix was attracting customers with their no late fees policy, Blockbuster stuck with their fines, frustrating their users even more. They tried to get rid of late fees in 2005 with a campaign called The End of Late Fees, but it didn't go well. Customers got confused by the small print, which still included restocking fees if movies weren't returned within a week. This move ended up making their reputation even worse. Inside Blockbuster, things were a mess. There were constant conflicts and power struggles, leadership changed often, and there was no clear vision for the future. They were trying to innovate, but couldn't let go of their old ways, and it just wasn't working. Their attempts to compete with Netflix were weak and poorly executed. They were too slow to adapt to the new technology, changing the industry. And speaking of failed strategies, we definitely don't want our channel to end up like that. So please hit the subscribe button and give us a like. Trust me, it's a foolproof plan to keep bringing you these stories. Meanwhile, Netflix was doing great. In 2007, they introduced streaming. This was a game changer. Suddenly, people didn't have to wait for DVDs to arrive in the mail. They could watch movies and TV shows instantly on their computers. It was revolutionary. Netflix's streaming service tapped into the growing desire for instant gratification and convenience. People loved being able to watch what they wanted, when they wanted, without dealing with physical DVDs. This rapid growth of Netflix's streaming service marked a big shift in what people wanted. The convenience of on-demand viewing was too good to ignore. People were leaving traditional rental services for Netflix's all-you-can-watch model. Technology was advancing fast, and Netflix was leading the way, constantly improving their service and adding more content. The rise of smartphones, tablets, and smart TVs made this shift even faster. Suddenly, you could watch Netflix anywhere, anytime. This was very different from Blockbuster's model, which required a trip to the store and the hassle of returning discs. The convenience factor was unbeatable. Blockbuster tried to catch up. They tried to launch their own streaming service, but they were always a step behind. Netflix had already established itself as the go-to platform for streaming content. They had a head start, and they weren't slowing down. Netflix's growth was rapid, and Blockbuster was struggling to keep up. By this point, Blockbuster's financial troubles were piling up. The company was deeply in debt due to their rapid expansion and the high cost of maintaining thousands of stores. Revenue was falling as more and more customers switched to Netflix. The financial strain was becoming unbearable.
Video rental chain Blockbuster has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Blockbuster has been synonymous with the home video market, but has been losing money and market share for years. Competition from the likes of Netflix and Redbox weighed on the retailer dependent on its brick-and-mortar infrastructure. Blockbuster has tried to keep up, ending late fees and expanding into online and kiosk services, but it's been unable to keep up with debt obligations.
In a desperate attempt to stay afloat, Blockbuster made several moves. They tried to renegotiate their debts and close underperforming stores. But it wasn't enough. The company's revenues were falling fast. They were losing money quickly. In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. It was the beginning of the end for this once mighty video rental giant. The numbers tell a grim story. At their peak, Blockbuster had thousands of stores and billions in revenue. By 2010, those numbers had dropped dramatically. Stores were closing everywhere, and the company was struggling to keep up with its competitors. The financial decline was swift and brutal. Let's not forget the role of late fees in all of this. Late fees were a major source of revenue for Blockbuster, but they were also a major source of customer dissatisfaction. I checked how much money those late fees brought in. At their peak, late fees made up about 16% of Blockbuster's total income. In their best year, this was around $800 million. Just think about that. As Netflix's no late fees policy gained popularity, more and more customers grew frustrated with Blockbuster's punitive charges. These fees, which had once been a significant source of revenue, became a symbol of everything customers hated about the company. Netflix's no late fees policy was a direct response to this frustration, and it resonated deeply with consumers. The convenience and customer-friendly approach of Netflix stood in stark contrast to Blockbuster's outdated practices. As Blockbuster's stores continued to close, Netflix was soaring to new heights. They had successfully transitioned from a DVD rental service to a streaming powerhouse. Their subscriber base was growing rapidly, and they were expanding their library with exclusive content. Netflix's focus on innovation and customer satisfaction paid off, while Blockbuster's inability to adapt led to their downfall. Reflecting on this period, it's clear that Blockbuster's failure to innovate and adapt to changing consumer preferences was their ultimate undoing. They were too slow to recognize the potential of digital streaming and too stubborn to change their business model. Netflix, on the other hand, was constantly pushing the envelope, always looking for new ways to enhance the customer experience. Think about the lessons we can learn from Blockbuster's story. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of complacency and the importance of staying ahead of the curve. The rise of Netflix and the fall of Blockbuster highlight the transformative power of technology and the need for businesses to evolve with the times. Alright, so we've seen how Blockbuster tried and failed to compete with Netflix. Now let's talk about what happened next. 2010, Blockbuster officially filed for bankruptcy. It was a dramatic fall for the company that once ruled the video rental world. Imagine being part of a business that was everywhere, a household name, and then suddenly it's crumbling around you. The bankruptcy meant most of their stores had to close. Those familiar blue and yellow signs started disappearing from neighborhoods, taking a piece of nostalgia with them. Blockbuster was iconic, but by the time they filed for bankruptcy, they were closing stores left and right. The rapid decline was hard to watch. One day, you'd walk by your local Blockbuster, and the next it'd be gone, replaced by something else, like a coffee shop or a convenience store. It was the end of an era. But here's a fun fact. Did you know there's still one Blockbuster store left? Yep, the last remaining Blockbuster is in Bend, Oregon. It's become a tourist attraction. People visit from all over to relive a piece of their childhood. The store's manager even tweets about daily happenings, and they've turned it into an Airbnb for the ultimate nostalgic sleepover. So, if you ever find yourself in Bend, it might be worth a visit. It's a living museum of a time gone by. To put things into perspective, let's look at some numbers. At their peak, Blockbuster was making billions of dollars in revenue. But by 2010, those numbers had dropped sharply. They went from billions in revenue to bankruptcy in just a few years. It's a stark reminder of how quickly things can change in the business world. By 2013, Netflix was producing its own content. Shows like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black were game changers. They weren't just streaming other people's content anymore. They were creating their own. This move not only set them apart from other streaming services, but also from traditional TV networks. Netflix was no longer just a platform. It was a content powerhouse. The impact of Netflix on the film and television industry has been huge. They've changed the way we watch shows and movies. Binge watching became a thing because of Netflix. Remember when you had to wait a week between episodes? Now you can watch an entire season in one sitting if you want to. This shift has changed how shows are written and produced. Writers and producers now think about the binge-watching model when creating content. leading to more serialized storytelling and cliffhangers to keep viewers hooked. Netflix's influence goes beyond just watching shows. They've also changed how the entertainment industry makes money. Traditional TV networks rely on advertising. But Netflix's subscription model means they don't need advertisers. This gives them more creative freedom and allows them to take risks on content that might not appeal to a broad audience, but can find a dedicated following among niche groups. And here's where things get really interesting. In a twist of fate that no one could have predicted, Netflix launched a series called Blockbuster in 2021. That's right, the company that played a big role in Blockbuster's downfall created a comedy series set in the last remaining Blockbuster store. Talk about irony.
And look at the heights they reach despite their circumstances.
Fair.
That. Don't fall for it.
It's sarcasm.
She almost got you.
Come on, man.
The show is a lighthearted look at the quirks of working at a video rental store in a streaming-dominated world. It's a nostalgic trip for those of us who remember the heyday of Blockbuster. But it's also a reminder of how far we've come in such a short time. Watching Blockbuster on Netflix feels like coming full circle. It's like Netflix is tipping its hat to the giant it once took down, acknowledging the role Blockbuster played in shaping the home entertainment industry. Think about the irony for a moment. Netflix, the company that disrupted and ultimately helped to defeat Blockbuster, is now creating content about it. It's a bit like writing a book about your high school rival after you've beaten them in every competition. There's a sense of poetic justice, but also a recognition of the shared history. Reflecting on this, it's fascinating to see how Netflix managed to not only survive, but thrive in an industry that has seen so many giants fall. They continuously adapted to changing technologies and consumer preferences, always staying one step ahead of the curve. Blockbuster, on the other hand, was too slow to recognize the digital revolution and paid the ultimate price. So, you might be wondering, could Blockbuster ever make a comeback? In the fast-paced world of technology and entertainment, never say never. Imagine this, Blockbuster rebrands itself as a retro experience for movie lovers. Think of it like a nostalgia-fueled pop-up event. They could set up Blockbuster nights in cities around the world, where people can rent movies in a recreated 90s-style store, complete with vintage decor, old-school snacks, and even VHS tapes. It would be a hit with millennials and Gen Zers who love retro trends, I think. People would flock to relive those simpler times and share the experience with their friends and families. Another idea could be Blockbuster entering the digital realm in a way that bridges the past and the present. What if they launched a streaming service with a twist? Picture a platform that not only offers the latest movies and TV shows, but also features a vast library of classic films and 90s favorites, curated in a way that gives it that Blockbuster feel. Add in interactive elements like virtual movie nights, where subscribers can watch and discuss films together in real time, and you've got something that stands out in the crowded streaming market. With the right marketing and a focus on community, Blockbuster could reinvent itself for the digital age and tap into our love for nostalgia. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Blockbuster's rise and fall is a classic tale of business innovation and disruption. They were the kings of video rentals, but their inability to adapt to a rapidly changing market led to their downfall. Netflix, with its forward-thinking approach and willingness to embrace new technologies, took the crown and transformed the entertainment landscape. As we wrap up this journey through the history of Blockbuster and Netflix, think about how these stories reflect broader trends in technology and business. The companies that succeed are the ones that innovate, adapt, and always look forward. Blockbuster's story is a nostalgic reminder of a time gone by, while Netflix's story is a testament to the power of innovation and adaptation. So, will they ever make a comeback? Let us know what you think in the comments.